All right, hello everyone. Today we are lucky to have my friend Robert Little, who's the project manager of sustainability at Google. And I think we'll have a very fruitful conversation about, the fun kind of work related to sustainability at Google and some very cool career advice in the end. So probably let's start with your time at Yale's Master of Environmental Management program, right? How did it actually prepare you for your career in sustainability in general, I guess?
Great. Well, first, thanks for having me, Qingxi. It's good to see you. It's been a little while here since before the pandemic here. And yeah, so let's talk about the MEM program here.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to think about grad school not as like something that you just sort of like check off as a box here, but you have to have sort of the reason why you go to grad school. For
Yep.
me, I was the chief of staff for a civil engineering firm working in water infrastructure. And I felt like I got a lot of experience on people and project management, hiring and firing, strategic planning, that kind of stuff. But I didn't really have the hard skills that I wanted to actually be in the driver's seat to be doing environmental work
Hmm.
as one big core thing. And then the second one, just personally, was I needed some more financial sort of literacy. When I was handed a financial packet from the CFO, didn't really know what to do looking through it here. So
Yeah.
I went into the Yale's program looking for specifically hard skills. So
Mm.
LCA, of course, being one of them. A lot of like financial accounting work, a great deal of industrial ecology classes like material flow analysis, waste management in the circular economy, things like that. That was really what I had my eyes set on as sort of like
Mm.
the area to focus on. In terms of some of the skill sets, like visual communication was a big one. So learning how to do Tableau, graphs in R, things like that, some sort of hard skills.
Yeah.
And then finally, just like, Yale is a great place where, you can ditch class to go see John Kerry speak or, oh, there's the president
I
of
actually
certain
missed that.
country. Yeah. So that, grad school also has an opportunity to just sort of like expose yourself to, yeah, just the fruits of a really, really wonderful university. That was another sort of component there. So how did it prepare me? I guess it was those sort of three things. It's like a subject area that I really cared a lot about,
Right.
hard skills that would help me actually do the thing when I was sitting in a real job afterwards,
Yep.
and then just that network and exposure, which is sort of like a once in a lifetime thing. I think that going back to school after you've been in the workforce for a while is a total luxury.
Yeah, I think though this is very, very good story, and I think the emphasis on really have a purpose, right? So especially I guess after you work for a while, then your purpose probably become more clear, and then looking for the, let's say, graduate program with the specific skills you want to learn. And another important thing is really sometimes, well, we don't necessarily encourage people to ditch a class, but whenever there's a networking opportunity that can help you to expand your horizon, definitely go for it. That's
100%.
that's what a university can actually offer, not just a course, just sitting in a classroom. And
Yeah.
that's very, very beneficial. And I'm glad that you mentioned a lot of the skills and the things we're gonna actually do in my course. So that's a reassurance for me as an instructor.
Softball for you.
All right. So I guess next, so you work at the for a period of time before doing your MEM program at Yale. And then after that, you worked a little bit again before you joined Google, right? So what kind of led to join Google?
Yeah, let's see here. So at Yale's program, I think I was one of, I don't know, 6 or 7 people who had a concentration in industrial ecology specifically. So during grad school, I had my one internship in between my 2 years at PepsiCo on their global
Oh,
sustainability team.
right.
I was focused on compostable packaging, recycled PET strategy, EPR legislation in certain markets. And that really, really prepared me weirdly well, I guess, for a career at Google where they needed sort of like subject matter experts focused on circularity,
Mm.
not just specifically in packaging, but sort of like with the sort of like framework that industrial ecology will bring across different application types. So my journey to Google literally was that they were looking for the right sort of background at the right time. I'm a big fan of like people throwing their hat into the ring at Google. You're often not hired for one job, but you're going to be hired for the many jobs that you'll have here. I'm not doing what I was hired for today, and I've had many sort of like jobs and hats since I've been here.
Yeah, isn't that great?
But yeah, I think that what brought me here was basically like I I really like the idea or the allure of working at a large company because you can
Mm.
affect change at a large scale.
Right.
Um, what I didn't appreciate at Pepsi as much as I appreciated Google is just the pace of change working in tech. I mean, I'm not somebody who belongs in tech. I can unplug the router and plug it back in. Like that's the extent of my technological sort of expertise. But the pace, like how technology or big tech sort of works, is that you can flip on features and make changes at a scale and a pace that is pretty unprecedented. You really cannot have at another sort of company. So I might be waiting to another question here, but what my first project here was getting recycling information on Google Maps and Google Search, so that when folks are searching for things like easy to recycle things, but they don't know where to do it, like plastic bottle recycling or metal can recycling, they can find the right area, but also like things that we don't want in our municipal recycling stream. So batteries, light bulbs, ink cartridges, electronics, plastic bags, things like that. I sort of like my first project, I thought I was going to be able to do a small pilot in one small city for one small period of time, and Google's not built that way. I was able to sort of like flip the switch on globally across the world, in many different languages. And that
Wow.
sort of like, if I went into grad school thinking like, hey, I want to be in a career where I'm going to be able to affect change at a large scale and sort of like reverse the environmental debt I have incurred, this has been a really, really good place to be able to do that at scale.
Yeah, so large corporate for large impacts and at scale and probably speed, right? And also I guess the culture of bias for action is also
Yes,
very important, right? So you kind of roll it out first and then you get feedback. Yeah, so I kind of encourage my students as well. So sometimes you don't wait until everything's perfect. Probably
100%.
kind
No,
of
80-20 rule. Do 20% of the effort, 80% of the impact, go, and you'll fix it on the way. I totally
yeah.
agree.
That's very good advice. So that kind of links to my next question is, what is a typical day for you at Google? You said you work on very interesting projects, and is that all, or you do some other things as
Yeah.
well? Yeah.
You know, I wonder what people think a typical day looks like at
Yeah.
Google. What I imagine it looked like before I got here was being able to do deep analytical work for weeks or months at a time,
Mm.
building something piece by piece, and sort of like, asking friends for help when you need it, but really getting to use my brain and go deeply into something. That is definitely not my experience. My experience being here has been highly collaborative, highly cross-functional. I do sit in a team that is designed to be that way. I get to work across the organization with all of Google's core products and all the different sort of operations that we have within our four walls as well. But I don't really know any team that builds anything in complete silos. So, I mean, a typical day for me includes everything from I, I sit as sort of like a subject matter expert and a sustainability strategy lead here to the company. So I have to kind of be kept up on the latest trends and who's doing what and what we might do
Right.
and gathering sort of like external feedback. So I do a lot of, honestly, like I feel privileged. I get to do a lot of reading and I get to do a lot of like learning. Um, Something that I didn't think that I was going to do that I do a ton of here is basically creating the case for different sustainability features and projects.
Mm.
So I often give the advice of, when I'm pitching a new feature or I'm building the case for a new project or a new sort of initiative or whatnot, I have to build a really sort of like robust cross-functional case and often a deck using different sources and whatnot, but showing like what's the revenue potential or the revenue loss. What's the cost of if we don't do this? Who else is doing something sort of similar here? What's the upside of possibly building something that will hopefully respond to user queries or user needs and things like that? So I'm doing a lot of like almost like rhetorical analysis, and part of that will use your quantitative sort of skills of the
Mm.
doing analytical work. But a
Yeah.
lot of that is honestly just like influencing without authority and making a sort of a business case that whether you are a sustainability champion or a sustainability skeptic, you can sort of nod your head and say like, yeah, I think that's a good idea. I think the last thing that I'd say that I do a lot of at Google on a day-to-day sort of basis um, is a lot of just coordination and connecting the dots here. So I sit with ML engineers and software engineers and MBAs and partnerships leads and PMs. And some of the strength of being able to get things done at the company is how quickly you can knit together cross-functional groups to sort of align on a problem. So if we're building, one of the things that I'm working on right now is a open source machine learning computer vision algorithm
Mm.
for the waste management industry.
Yeah.
So again, I have no business doing any of the tech development there, but I do have to think through like, hey, like as we're building these product features, I'm thinking like, oh, if this is going to be deployed in this market, this is the legislation it needs to be compliant with, and I want it to be able to report on, what these business partners need. So it's a lot of sort of like holding all these different various inputs together and creating a story that makes sense for tech development.
Wow, that's a very, very comprehensive and insightful kind of story. So
Yeah.
based on that, I think I can kind of highlight a few things that I feel like are very helpful, will probably for my students as well. First of all, you need to work in a team environment, right? That's very important. You will have different perspective, and just essentially you will have different functionality you cannot do by yourself, right?
Correct.
Because sometimes I got pushback from students. It's like I can do it myself. I don't need a teammate. And sometimes people will feel like a teammate is gonna drag me drag me down, right?
Oh, that's a life skill you have to learn, right? You're going to
Yeah,
be encountering personalities and people who do want to do things on their own and whatnot. And it's the classic proverb, like if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And that's, I
yeah.
mean, we have to do both here at Google, but
That,
yeah,
that
you do not have a choice to work in a complete silo here.
So that's very, very important. So yeah, so hopefully I can convince them with this video that they all have to do this. And another one is I feel like, yeah, so in addition to the doing, for example, the analytical, let's say the hard science work, I don't like to use hard science, but you also do a lot of communication and, talking to different stakeholders. So the same problem, you need to be able to describe it in different ways and
Yep.
probably draw their attention by, changing some of the order of your presentation and really cater the conversation based on their interests. So you can collectively, again, with a team, you get things going forward, right? So the communication skill and being able to look at a problem from different aspects will be very, very important, right? So
Yeah.
in
No, I mean,
addition to the quantitative, of course, right?
one of the classes that I TA'd at Yale was the fundamentals of working with people.
Ah,
And we also said that, they say that these are soft skills, yet they are the hardest to master, right? Like,
I love that. I
you,
love that.
you can take courses. I mean, I always give this advice as well. Like if you're looking at getting an MBA, you can get an MBA everywhere. The math is going to be the same. The accounting structures are going to be the same and whatnot.
Yeah.
But those soft skills developments or whatever have come in immensely handy, whether you're tech or non-tech. I mean, I think that one of the cool things that I've learned here is like, especially when I'm incubating a project, I will take myself, who is partnerships, business, and strategy, and I'll
Mhm.
take an engineer with me everywhere I go.
Mm.
And like I'm learning a lot more of the engineering sort of language and whatnot, and thinking about product functionality and whatnot. But in turn, so are my sort of like my engineers getting to flex and build those soft skill sets.
That's great. That's good.
So
That's a good strategy. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. That's
again,
again, I think that's very, very, very helpful story. So, and also you mentioned one of a project where you have this computer vision. I think I saw you posted on LinkedIn and actually a few years back, right? So it's like basically you have a bunch like a conveyor belt. Then you have different like waste, and then you try to separate them. And my understanding early on, the CV technology is basically it cannot distinguish like a transparent like a plastic from the
mhm.
background, right? It's really hard. But I guess this problem is more or less solved. Um, I guess that leads to my question is probably can you tell us one? I was thinking about three, probably one is good now. Most exciting achievement or idea that at Google you see that can impact, globally, like a massively improve people's life. Like, for example, do you think this computer vision technology is going to help us to achieve much better recycling? Then accordingly, of course, we can reduce a lot of impacts, right? So is that one of the example you want to kind of probably further highlight?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I would answer this in two different ways here. So I focused, when I first joined Google, I joined the global sustainability team under Kate Brandt, and then I at the time was reporting directly to Mike Warner, who was our lead for circular economy. And
Mhm.
my role on my team is very circularity sort of focused. So I
Mm.
will talk about sort of some circularity projects. That being said, I think Google and the way that we've affected change out in the ecosystem, there's a lot of very positive sort of trends and projects that are leveraging AI for basically efficiency and optimization. I mean, the two sort of fun and easy ones that I think that sort of come to mind here are like, or maybe the one that I think is the most interesting one, is Project Greenlight. So this one is something that we just got brought out publicly right now, which is basically using big data and vehicle data and city traffic light data to optimize traffic lights. It's like that problem of like, you know how like on a Sunday, if you're on a drive, you might hit a red light and you're like, there's nobody around
Yeah,
here.
yeah,
Why did I
right,
hit
exactly.
a red light and whatnot? And if you hit 5 lights in a row that are green, you're like, it's my lucky day and whatnot. Like that's not, of course, how we should live our lives here. So we're partnering with cities and basically using data to solve a very human sort of like frustrating sort of issue, but it has deep climate impact. I think something along the lines of like a car in motion rather than stop, start, stop, start, stop, start. It's like
Yeah.
20 or 30 times more efficient.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm glad you
so
mentioned this. So,
yeah,
because sorry, just quick interruption here, because we have a UBC Data Lake initiative. There's one project we did. No, not me, but someone else actually did. Is really look at some of the traffic across like where the traffic pattern is, and I think the goal is also try to optimize the flow so you reduce the emission from the tailpipe. So,
mhm.
yeah, I'm
Yeah.
glad, but I'm guessing Google is trying to do a really large scale that's scalable and the model or algorithm for anywhere in the world, I guess, right?
I mean, everything that I've seen here is like a J curve. You sort of like build this little tiny thing, you incubate it, and then you basically scale it out
Ah,
and have it grow. Like the impact is not in the early stages. The impact is when you get it everywhere and
right.
whatnot. Like with my recycling work, that's what I was most sort of impressed by. Is now we're
Mhm.
in. I don't know if I can, legally say every country in the world, and you can Google it in different languages all around the world, and matching vernacular for different terms and whatnot. It's just so cool to see. Like again,
Mhm.
like I didn't build any of that stuff. I just helped build this feature in this sandbox that can connect to all the different other parts of Google, like that already have that scale, that already have those billions of users.
That's great. So, what I hear is that first of all, in Google, probably one of the things that you're proud of most is about using data or machine learning to actually do things for the humanity, right? And another
Yep.
important thing I observed that is that you always mention there's a teamwork, right? So you don't have to be a machine learning engineer, you don't have to be a data science, but you can bring in different perspective on the problem. So then you can help the team to develop the algorithm that fits better to the overarching goal. So
Yep.
everybody will have their role on the team. I think that's very very important culture at Google, and
Mhm.
that's how I think you can solve problem quickly. Yeah.
Yep. I agree.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
good observations.
that's perfect. And then of course, I think we're not living in a perfect world. So I have one more question for you is that what's on your wish list that can make your job easier? So, right. So let's say if you want to deploy a perfect recycling system, can you do it now, or is there something that you wish you can have? It doesn't
Yeah,
have
there's
to be technical, right? So yeah.
there's two answers to this one.
Mhm.
So within my company, I think I've become spoiled, but I really like being like as we were talking about before this call here, getting stuff done quickly and a bias towards action and sort
Mhm.
of like really launching things and tweaking things. I
Yeah.
think as companies grow and mature and whatnot, they become much more fossilized, and processes are important, and you have fewer problems if you have processes, but it also slows things down here. So I always wish there's more sort of like rapid sort of action when it comes to sustainability specifically because we just don't have that much time. Resources are being used and parts per million in our atmosphere are going up. So that's something that I sort of wish that we had more of internally. Um, I think externally, what I've also observed here is that we're really, really good, or I guess the whole global ecosystem is really good at responding when there are policies that you must comply with. So
Mhm. Yeah.
if they're like, where did sustainability in corporates come from? It came from, actual integrated financial reporting that is, by law for investment law, you sort of have to like disclose your assets and your risks and things like that.
Yeah.
Um, Boy, I'm almost losing my train of thought here, but I think that yeah, externally, the more policies that we have that say like, hey, you have to comply in this sustainability sort of feature. Whether like for me personally, I work in recycling and waste management, so and extended producer responsibility. I want this to be across the United States, for example, rather than piece by piece by piece. Or in Canada, I know that certain states have EPR policies, but they may not be harmonized together. So the more, I mean, I worked on the Hill in Congress for a little while, and it was like,
Mhm.
I love that this is where you get a lot of action done, but that's a very slow place to get
Yeah.
action done. So it's like this crazy sort of balance. You need both, right? You need private sector to actually implement, but you need the public sector to actually sort of like help direct and force people's hands to actually prioritize when it comes to sustainability.
Oh, that's amazing because I was always kind of picturing this kind of the gap, right? So you have both working towards this common goal, but for
Mhm.
some reason there's always a gap for them to actually work efficiently. So we always get this kind of feeling is that as a researcher, we have all these kind of very good models, very good, we know that's
Mhm.
gonna work. Then how do we kind of convince the policymakers? Then
Yeah.
the policymakers will be like, okay, there's so many options. Like, why should I pick this one? I need to be
Yeah.
responsible to my people, right? So I feel like there is a gap that yeah, that's also on my wish list. How we can actually close the gap.
One of our taglines here is, work alignment is the work. Like
Oh yeah,
aligning between different parties, between different ideas, between different priorities. Like that's actually where the tough start is.
yes.
Doing it is much easier. Like getting stuff built and actually doing the engineering work or whatever. Like you know that's what
Yeah, I
Google's
agree.
known for. But the alignment is a very human and mercurial sort of thing
Right.
that takes time and skill.
Yeah, probably we should train students in this particular area as well, because I don't see this kind of course design for that. I'm just biased, but I limited scope. But yeah, I think that's important as well. Yeah, so I guess I have as usual, I have a one final question is probably
Okay.
for you to give our students a few advice. Like the students in my course are like senior undergrad, or some of them are graduate students, and of course some of you are interested into graduate school, and thank you very much for the very first story you gave. Like, for example, go to a graduate school where you know you want to learn this skill and you know that you can actually get exposure to a certain area you're interested in. So pick your program wisely. That's a good one. So what about the students who want to, for example, after undergraduate and try to go to the kind of job market in sustainability? Um, any advice for them?
Yeah, I mean, I have sort of like positive advice and negative advice here. I think on the
Oh,
positive,
welcome.
I think that the uh, sustainability has grown a whole ton at my company since I've been here. I see it as a key sort of like subject area that it is growing in importance, and it of course will as the climate warms and the planet responds and whatnot. So I think that's a good sort of important thing in LCA, and some of the tools that you teach in industrial ecology are going to be ever more important as our resources become, more difficult to extract, more difficult to recycle, politically involved. Like there's a lot of work that needs to be done there. So I think that it's a good time to be in this field.
Hmm.
I think that in the same breath, right? Like anytime you see sort of economic uncertainty and whatnot, sustainability is often pushed to the side or whatever. So I guess my advice is when I was going through my undergrad, and then I taught English in Korea for a year on a Fulbright, and then I worked in
Oh,
civil engineering as a chief of staff, and then I did all these crazy weird. I worked in Ghana, and I did rural solar electrification. Like
hmm.
you can like the one of the beautiful things at working at this company is you get these people who have all these varied skill sets and all these different experiences and whatnot. And at a company that really values diversity in thought and in skill sets and whatnot, that is so helpful. That is so important. So as you sort of like leave the undergrad sort of area, I think there's this untrue belief that you must have a career that is very sort of like narrow and focused. Like for sure, if you're a doctor, right? I always like when I talk to my doctor friends, like they have a career path that is very much like set. They know what they're doing for the next like 5, 10, 15 years. Sustainability is one of those ones that is much more cross-functional and much more meandering. So I don't think that you should worry about if you get a job, I don't know, doing policy work or doing business analytics and whatnot. Like those skills are all very helpful in my job right now, even if I didn't see them as helpful experiences or jobs on my arrival or on my journey here.
So this reminds me of Steve Jobs' famous commencement speech at
Mm,
Stanford 2005, right? So he talks about connecting the dots.
mm,
Basically, you cannot connecting dots forward. You have to plant the dots, and then you look back, you see, oh, they actually get connected. So
totally,
yeah,
totally.
so that's a very good advice, and thank you very much, Robert. I totally enjoy our conversation. Now, the more I do this kind of series, the more I feel like this is probably more for me. I got a lot of inspiring ideas and conversations from my guests. And thank you very much for your time.
Well, it's great to catch up. I think it's a really fun thing here. Definitely would like to be invited back. And yeah, if you all have any questions, I'm a total LinkedIn troll. Feel free to shoot me notes there. My inbox is kind of nuts, so feel free to like pester me a bunch if you really need some help there. And yeah, keep up the good work. And I don't know, we need more, we need more and more and more folks with an environmental background, no matter what you do and no matter what job function you're in. So
Yeah.
I appreciate that you're doing that wherever you guys go.
Great. Thank you very much, Robert. Yeah, take care, and we'll definitely catch up. Yeah.